Greetings, this is the Death of Duck's Place, and this is part 3 of Mass Effect Jenkins edition. Jenkins, POV. The hallway that held our individual sleeping pods opened into the ship's common area, a space that took up the majority of the second floor. As I walked out, I could see Caden sat at the table for breakfast, along with two other familiar faces, Luther Noble and Samantha Lee, two members of the ship's communication team. Worked under Presley, and we had managed to develop a positive rapport in the week we've been stuck on board together. Well, there he is. We were taking bets to see if the Spectre was going to end up arresting you or executing you for your VI work. Luther was a big guy, dark skinned and built like a fridge. He was actually raised in the slums back on Earth. He was usually the most intimidating out of any of us, which made him, being a total softie, and comm nerd, even funnier. Or, for trying too hard to get his autograph. Sam was the smallest out of any of us. The short redhead came from an Irish colony family, and was the only one of us with a distinguishable accent. I'm not going to try, no. Oh, please, Sam, at least he got to talk to his crush. Have you ever even spoken to Commander Shepard yet? Caden was definitely my closest friend out of the bunch, and chirping back to my defense was his duty. It was also exponentially funny to watch Sam's face turn red as her hair, as we call her out for her little crush. Yes, tell us, Sam. Have you shown the commander your collection of her interviews after Akuzi? I'm certain she'd appreciate your efforts to organize them by timeline and prominence. I enjoyed watching her blush get worse as I adjusted my seat at the table, starting to eat my tray of breakfast. Dehydrated eggs, and oatmeal. So good it almost tasted like the real thing. Don't start with me, Jenkins. Did you get Nihilus to sign your vid collection? I'm sure he'd love your complete extended collection of the Spectre anthology. Her attempts to embarrass me were cute, but unfortunately futile. Jenkins had no shame before I got here, and I certainly didn't bring any with me. No, actually, I was too busy getting him outfitted with my Omni-Tool upgrades. Also, we will apparently be meeting to talk shop after today's mission. So, in other words, suck it, Sam. Point for Jenkins. I chuckled to myself as the whole table turns to gape at me for a moment. It was pretty impressive, shutting up a table filled with these morons, as I chose to, bask in silence. Nice. How are you not freaking out? Hasn't outfitting specters been your lifelong dream? Luther was the first one to recover, of course, asking the question I knew was coming. Oh, simple, Luther. I've clearly died, and this is my perfect afterlife. Why freak out when I'm adjusting to my personal paradise? Next, a collection of Asari is going to walk through those elevator doors and tell me my bloodline must be preserved for the good of the galaxy. I glance over to the doors of the cargo bay, playing up the bit as everyone glances over. Of course, it's at that moment that Engineer Adams chooses to walk out of the elevator, making his way to the flight deck for his briefing. The whole table barely holds it together long enough for him to get out of sight before we burst out laughing. Really, Jenkins? I mean, you weren't wrong. I'm sure Adam would have loved nothing more to preserve your bloodline. Is he still trying to poach you to the ship's engineering team? Caden turns, still laughing to himself. You're joking, Caden, but honestly, it's more accurate than you might believe. He's trying to convince me to tutor his niece once we are off the ship. Like somehow his 20-year-old law student of a relative wants my engineering experience. I lean back into my seat as more chuckles erupt around the table at my expense. Well, it's not just Adams. Presley is still trying to tell me to try and convince you to transfer to comms navigation. Must be nice to be a prodigy. Sam's smile fell as she slumped in her seat, looking a little frustrated. Come on, Sam. Presley knows your frequency scanner upgrades is top of the line. He's just a hard ass when it comes to testing and verifying before implementation. He's still refused Jenkins' Omni-Tool upgrade too. Luther puts a hand on her shoulder trying to cheer her up. Yeah, Sam, Presley just pissed that he's in a ship co-designed with Turians. Caden chips in. helping to round a few more chuckles from the group and raise the mood again. Oh man, he must be blowing a gasket with Nihilus on board, probably rambling about security and secret agendas. I look over to see both Luther and Sam share a look before laughing to themselves at my comment. Looks like I hit the nail on the head to no one's surprise. Our conversation carried on that way for 10 minutes or so, chatting about work, the new ship, and our legendary guests. Eventually, Luther and Sam needed to head to their station and left the table, heading upstairs to their workstations. With just Caden and I left, we sat in silence for a minute or two, just eating. Eventually, though, Caden broke the silence. Have have you made any progress on modifying L2 implants? He asked nonchalantly, avoiding eye contact by focusing on his food. I thought you said you didn't want me to bother with the L2 implants, I reply, setting down my utensils to watch Caden closely. He flinches at this before looking up at me. Please, we both know that the moment I complained about it causing me migraines, you were going to try and fix it. Hell, it's probably just an excuse for you to mess with implants anyways. Oh, Caden, always refusing to ask for help but desperately hoping for relief. I find it upsetting that you think I would ignore your wishes just to help a friend by tinkering with advanced and restricted technology. He looks at me with a single eyebrow raised before chuckling to himself as I continue speaking. To answer your question, no. I was able to convince Chakwas to get me an actual sample of one of those implants, but it's unlike any tech I've touched before. The way it interfaces with the brain, regulating and triggering biotic potential is, honestly, way more complicated than some coding. Plus, never paid attention to bio back in the day, so I'm having to relearn a bunch of stuff. He frowns for a second. That's all the response he shows me. That figures, though. After all, the implants have been around for ages. And so far, the only real solution is life-threatening surgery or dealing with it. And given all I get is a nasty headache on occasion, it's not really big of a deal. Caden, I've only been working on it for a few weeks, and I've only gotten an actual physical model just the other day. Give me some time, okay? I'll figure something out, I'm sure. I'll be talking more with Chakwas today anyways. Gotta pick her brain about some ideas, so trust me. We'll find something that works, I promise. I look Caden right in the eyes, and I mean every word I'm saying. If I can help him with the physical repercussions of a rushed and faulty implant, then that same fix can be used on countless other L2s that have been suffering from side effects. He just looks at me for a while, straight-faced and cold, before he cracks a slight smile and shakes his head. I can't believe I'm hoping a kid can fix a problem that's been around for 2 decades. Some superior I am. Aren't I supposed to be looking out for you? He stands from the table, walking around to punch me in the shoulder lightly. I stand up as well, grabbing my tray to clean up where we had sat. Whatever you say, Caden, you only outranked me because you got 4 years head start and biotics. Give me some proper field missions, and it'll only be a matter of time before I'm giving you orders. He laughs at me as we walk down the stairs. We are both beginning to head to the flight deck when I hear a couple doors slide open behind us. Glancing back, I can see Dr. Corinne Chakwas walking out of the medical bay. Shit. Hey, Caden, head on up without me. I gotta chat with Chakwas for a bit. Be sure to fill me in if you catch a word on what our mission is. With a Spectre on board, there's no chance this is just a dry run. I give him a wave before turning back and walking towards the doctor. For sure, Jenkins, try not to get too distracted or the captain will chew you out for being late. He snarks back before continuing up the flight deck. I cross the distance, meeting the doctor as she fills a travel mug with some coffee from the kitchenette. I stand nearby silently as she slowly takes her first sip before sighing and turning around to look at me. Can I help you, Jenkins? She can come off a bit cold or uncaring, but she's actually an incredibly practical woman, an expert doctor who has patched up more soldiers than most lend her a bit more of an interesting personality. You told me to never bother you before you could have your morning coffee. I think I recall you making it an express order, actually. I try to keep as much snark out of my tone as possible. Shockwaz is fine, with some banter, but she prefers to keep things at least partially professional. Ah, yes, and remind me how standing directly over my shoulder like an eager med student isn't bothering me? Her expression doesn't change, but her eyes light up a little more as she enjoys getting to trade barbs a little. Well, I was going to chalk it up to my charming personality and educational drive making me a little more entertaining to put up with. I smile back as she shakes her head at my response, not bothering to grace it with an answer. She begins making her way to the stairs to head up to the flight deck as I follow behind. I wanted to thank you, Doctor, for getting me a model of the L2 implants. I know they're not the easiest to find, so getting one on such short notice was appreciated. Hmm? Oh, of course, Corporal. Frankly, not enough of the Alliance, either the brass or the troops themselves, take enough interest in the struggles of our own. Allowing someone to study and look over such a device with the hope to alleviate the pain of their comrades is my pleasure. She looks back to give me a rare smile. Oh, Doctor, your personality kept you from ever being a romance option, but you could be a damn heartbreaker if you wanted to. I'm glad you agreed, Doctor. I wanted to talk to you about some of the ideas I was having as well. You know more than I would on the existing attempts, so you could tap. I cut off as we reached the top of the steps and arrived at the bridge of the ship. It still blew my mind no matter how many times I've seen it. To be standing aboard the deck of the Normandy is something else. The large holographic projection of the galaxy map fills the center of the room, surrounded by a series of consoles that are used by the few navigation officers. Following the walkway around, there is a single hallway that leads to the cockpit, a hallway lined with chairs and full of consoles that are used by our navigation and counterintelligence crews. I can see Luther and Sam both sitting in their workspaces, both appearing small due to sitting lower than the walkway that moves past them and into the cockpit itself. The cockpit will have Joker, the ship's pilot, in his usual seat, and Cadian sat at a console alongside him, analyzing the stealth systems and ensuring everything is functioning properly. Joker doesn't require the assistance, of course, but as a member of the ground team, Cadian and I had to find ways to occupy ourselves, helping around the ship or personal projects were the easiest way to do that. Seriously, Jenkins? Every time I'm impressed by intelligence resolve, you stand awestruck by the simplest things. We've been aboard the ship for a week, and yet you are still left speechless every time you come up to the flight deck. Dr. Chavez shakes her head, smiling ever so lightly at my reaction. Come on, Doctor, you have to admit this ship is impressive beyond belief. I would not apologize for being awestruck by awesome things. I crossed my arms and leaned against the wall of the back of the room, firm in my belief that the ship King rules. And I wonder, when you stare unblinking at Commander Shepard, is that because they are awesome? Or is it something more personal? The doctor took a long sip of her coffee, clearly taking pleasure in the sudden flush to my face and how flustered I was feeling now. Uh, Shepard is a hero, okay? Everyone heard about what they did on Akuzi. Cut me some slack. We both know I'm not the one with a fascination with the commander. The doctor gives me a nod in response to this, as we both take a moment to look over to where Samantha is sitting at her workstation. I suppose that is true. Still, you should be careful with how much watching you do. The commander is an N7 after all. She's trained to pick up on those sorts of things. Oh, speak of the devil. She trails off her thoughts as a woman strides into the bridge. Despite the good doctor's comments, we both can't help but watch as she moves through the space with purpose, heading directly towards the cockpit. Almost everyone, at least, turns to watch as she marches by, her mere presence demanding attention and focus. The protagonist. The hero, for an entire trilogy, would face a threat that has wiped out the galaxy countless times in a cycle older than anyone could know, and would come out victorious. And unlike in the game trilogy, this time Jenkins was going to survive. He would help in that fight. I would help in that fight, using the knowledge I have to earn her trust to provide aid, and hopefully lessen the casualties the galaxy would face. I can only hope that it would be enough. End of part 3. If you've enjoyed, please like, comment, and subscribe because the algorithm of YouTube is algorithmic. I don't know. Alright, I hope everyone has a great day and night wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Have a good one. Bye.